Try Before We Die, the whiskey review show where we don't know what we're drinking, but we'll tell you what we're thinking. Except today, really for the first time ever, we actually do know what we're going to be drinking. First time. We're here with Ryan from Village Garage Distillery in Bennington, Vermont. And did you get lost? What took so long?
I did. It's mud season now. You know, I didn't know we were so rural in New Hampshire, live free or die. So it took me, a little bit of time to get to the Bittersweet Bar, but I'm here. We're on the ground floor and we're going to have a good time.
It is. We've been to your place and you absolutely are the first, distillery to come to our place. And it's such an honor. And it seems like you've brought some stuff, right? And just super excited about all this. Now, Village Garage Distillery. So this is in Bennington, Vermont.
That is correct. Yeah, Bennington, Vermont, Old Town Garage. The two founders, Matt Cushman and Glenn Sauer, who we call Glennington.
I like that.
Phone's always ringing. He's always moping around on the phone. So it was the town garage is where they played at and grew up in. And they decided over a couple drinks on New Year's Eve, let's build a distillery. Why not? Right. Let's breathe some life back in the downtown. So they had this vision and they put it together. And it was all about what can they build that Amazon and Walmart can't take away from a tiny town that's built off community-driven ideas.
I love that, right? I just love that. Sometimes I feel like I was born in the wrong century or the wrong millennium, right? So I love that. So there's a little bit of history of how the Village Garage came to be, and it's located in the Old Town Garage building, right? The Village Garage. I just love it. And the fact that you've come here and clearly prepared for some stuff to try. Your job at the distillery is what? You push the broom?
Yeah, someone's got to clean. I'm the man in the trenches no matter what. So I'm always cleaning and
I'm just giving you trouble, right? Yeah.
I know. Organizing, but head distiller coming up with the recipes.
Yeah.
Also, the way of the head of operations, making sure production, lead times, all these things play a factor because distilling is not just recipes and drinking. It's a whole other thing besides that people don't understand.
Yeah.
And I like to educate people that. And basically you live off an Excel spreadsheet when you're a distiller. It's just how it is.
Right. I mean, and I've been in distilleries in Scotland and I've been in your distillery, as you know. And there is so many other things, right? Just like any profession, right? Any job, right? It's not all the glamour. There's I'm at work, right? I have things to do, things to keep track of so that in the business world, the customer gets what they were hoping for or is willing to try something new because they've been impressed by what's already been out there, the consistency.
Yes, consistency is key. And like you said, there's a lot more to do. Like, I don't know, for instance, you got to clean the trench drains out underneath the still. Yeah. Who's going on their hands and knees and cleaning out dirty grain?
Right.
So there's just so many factors that play a part in consistency, grains, farmers, type of weather, agriculture, all that kind of items that help you develop a consistent brand and formula and recipe to make sure people are happy drinking liquid gold.
Absolutely. And of course, as you know, we're all about the whiskey here. I like that you brought up grains. So I think I understand that you get a lot of your grain from Nebraska and Minnesota. Do I have that right?
That is absolutely wrong. The Vermont true thing is, I'm not a Vermonter, but I take part in their pride and who they are. It's all about using local, helping communities, building everybody up together. So I source all my grains locally. We use local mountain water, and we distill and we age in Vermont. So when you taste our product, you bring it home in Nebraska or wherever you're getting your grains from, it'll bring a piece back of Vermont. You drink it, and you're like, man, that's Vermont. That was a good trip.
Right, and I love, and I knew it was Vermont grain, right? And I do love this idea of community, right? And again, it goes back to where we born in the wrong century, right? Where things were localized, right? And you knew, right? And the differences were understandable and why. And it wasn't always about the dollar, right? But it was about the community, and we're all in something together, right? And I love this idea that we're building something that can't be taken from us. Right, that this is Vermont spirit.
Exactly. The Green Mountain Boys would have been proud of us fighting the Revolutionary War with a bottle of that bourbon.
Absolutely. Right. And though I live in New Hampshire, right, it is just there. And there was this time period where Northern New England really was all in it together. Right. And so I 100% connect with this Vermont idea. I happen to work in Vermont. And if I didn't live where I live because of my historic connection to this property, I grew up here. Right. I regularly say I probably moved to Vermont. Right, because that sense of community, you got 1/3 the population for roughly the exact same physical footprint as New Hampshire, right? There is this still yesteryear experience there.
Yes, and that's kind of, as been here for quite a few years, helping all this out. That's what I've learned talking to everybody and traveling to the Northeast Kingdom and just traveling everywhere. It's very just community driven. There's no billboards. There's no highway.
Against the law.
Yeah, that blew my mind. I'm like, can we put a billboard up? They're like, no. And you can't have a building over 3 stories tall either. Like, okay, that's beautiful.
Vermont protecting itself.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think the billboard law came around in the 50s. I may be wrong. It may have been later. But it is truly a law, right? If you drive the interstate in Vermont, I say the interstate, at one point it does connect to another half as long, another interstate, but it is not like any other highway you've driven on, right? It's 2 lanes each way, but it's all nature all the time.
It is, like for us,
and you're not even on 89 or 91. You only have state highway.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with New Hampshire. Driving. It's like, an hour drive. That's around the corner. It's like, but it's not that hard. There's beautiful mountains. There's everything you need to look at. It's easy.
Right. An hour commute in an urban setting, you may have only gone 14 miles.
Yeah.
Here, an hour commute, you've gone 90 miles, if not 120. I guess it just depends on how heavy your foot is. But you're making time the whole time.
Yes, correct. And it's always a game plan to beat Google Maps.
That's right. It says it's going to take me an hour. I'll show that computer.
Yeah.
I grew up here.
Turn the Waylon Jennings up and just let it loose. No Jerry Reed, let that thing loose. Cut it loose.
Yep. All right. Well, Ryan, we've been to the distillery. We've got a pretty good history there. You've refreshed us here. You've spent some time here at the bitter end. We really are focused on whiskey, a big deal about the Scotch whiskeys. But in keeping with this local community thing, we reached out. You guys were super receptive. We came over, so generous. And now you agreed to come here for the true tasting. Why don't we get after that?
Let's do it.
All right.
That's kind of why I came here. And let's get into the nuts and bolts of things.
Okay. So before we go to Brown, I just want to acknowledge that you guys take, you're thinking about customers. You're thinking about your community. Not everybody's going to be interested in a rye or a bourbon, or we'll talk about some of the other stuff here too. Some folks, they want a vodka or a gin, right? And so you guys are producing that too?
Correct. Yeah. So
what do you got there for the vodka?
It's a 100% corn base. It's all used local Spring Mountain water. It's just easy, gentle. People like it, but It's a neutral grain spirit. It's like a white canvas. Let's go paint, and we're gonna paint soon.
Right. And I love that about a vodka. Right, the fact that when done correctly, right, it's now what are you going to do with it?
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. What can you make with it? What can you add?
Yep.
Maybe harvest some stuff from the local pine tree, some fir added into it, things like that. But yeah, it's vodka.
I love it. Coming in at 40%, it looks like.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. All right. And if I wanted to add something to my tonic, I might add some
gin, American dry gin, very citrus forward. Some of the ingredients were harvested directly from the mountains of the Green Mountains.
That is awesome. Yeah, I see this is coming in at 42. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, typically with the gin, you kind of want to keep it a higher proof because there's a lot of the compounds and oils you want to keep in solution. That way, when you actually make a cocktail and you add the ingredients that lowers the proof down, then it really, this bouquet of smells and flavors really come out. So I think for safety reasons, drinking, that 94 proof is correct.
There it is. That's I was curious, and you 100% answered, right? I was expecting to see 40 again, but I love that you have a reasoning and that you picked your ABV. And it seems and sounds scientifically solid.
I hope so.
But again, try before we die. We're a whiskey show. And I can read what's on the bottles in front of me on the back sides. So are we going to be able to try these? I see they're still sealed.
I think we should get into it. I think we got strong enough hands to maybe get them open.
We can pull it off. So you know your range. We've got a rye. We've got something that I think is a little unique here. We've got a bourbon, and we've got the bonfire, which I think is also a bourbon.
Correct. It's a bourbon base with a pinch of Vermont smoked maple syrup by Sugar Bob himself.
So where would you say to start? Where would we ascend?
Well, I think once we start drinking, we might descend.
Okay.
But we'll start the ascension because we're going to take off, hit the right altitude.
Yeah.
I think you are actually in the correct order, going from left to right. Well, I'll do this one last. So I go this, boom, and then that one last.
All right. So Ryan, head distiller at Village Garage Distillery in Bennington, Vermont, says we should start with some Village Rye, coming in at 46, 45?
45.
45, yes. Yes, all right.
So that one is 100% rye mash bill. So very simple, very subtle. I think the maltiness of the rye kind of helps it, makes that like peppery notes that you would typically get from rye grains a little bit smoother and easier.
Well, I liked rye IPAs. Look at me. So I like the flavor of rye. And it was just fun pulling this cork. I recall at the distillery, we filled some bottles, we put some labels on, right? So it's fun to sort of be on the flip side of that experience, tearing through the strip, popping the cork.
Yes.
45% ABV rye whiskey.
Yes.
Feel like a cowboy,
yes.
Right? Have a bottle of rye. All right. All right, so I don't know the answer to this, and I hope this isn't whatever for Ryan. Any coloration added?
No coloration added, just standard, straightforward, less is more, keep it simple, and let the liquid speak for itself.
Awesome, I love that. All right, so can I just ask, is this 90 just representative of 45 times 2? This is just the...
That is correct,
okay.
Yeah. So 90 proof, 45% ABV.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Very clean nose. Oh. Almost bready, like bread, sandwich bread. Almost bready on the nose.
Yeah, like a bagel shop in the morning.
Yeah, something.
Over, you go in, can you give me a bagel out the back? They open it, the smell wafts in.
Yeah, that's what
I'm looking for.
Yeah, well, you got it. All right. Village Garage Distillery, rye whiskey. Vermont rye whiskey.
The Kentucky Chill. That really helps open it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fun one, man. Rye whiskey. I like it.
That is 100% a rye whiskey.
Yes, sir.
100%. Now, this answer may not be 100% because I don't know. Is this 100% rye?
100% malted rye, all the grains from Vermont, as Vermonters do. Vermonters come first, as they say in the Revolutionary War. That's what it is.
Right. It's interesting that though this isn't a battle, the Battle of Bennington is a real thing, right? There's a historic marker there, and so we're gonna move through this. But Vermont, as Ryan has noted a couple times, played a key role in the Revolutionary War, as well as defending themselves from counterfeit land grant paperwork from folks from New York and Massachusetts at one point, right? So, and a lot of that occurred in the Bennington region because that is the southwestern corner of Vermont. And so really right there, we've got New York and Massachusetts.
That is correct. And Bennington during the wartime was actually an ammunition depot. So anytime they won a different battle here and there, ammunition and cannons would get sent there, then shipped out to Boston to get shipped out. But yes, Ethan Allen, Molly Stark, John Stark, they were all huge in the Revolutionary War. Hence our label, the Green Mountain Boys label. So that's kind of what we chose to do. Is it just Vermont?
Just a little homage to history of Vermont, right? Yeah, excellent. Reminds me of this rye whiskey. Excellent.
Why, thank you. You know.
And it's really fun for me if you were genuine with the idea of trying to get to that bread, that bagel aroma or whatnot, because that is a genuine experience I just had. And I promise you, Ryan and I have had no conversation about flavors in preparation for this.
No preparation at all.
Right. Just like the show all the time. If you've watched this before, it should be clear. And hopefully there's been enough examples of catching us in our honesty that it is the truth. Wow. That's really enjoyable.
Well, thank you so much. And that's a different mash bill. No one ever really does 100% rye.
Well, that's why I asked, because I didn't know, was this going to be an 80-20 or?
No, I made it easy because that way I can train my helper. Hey, you only have to hit one button on the mill. Don't worry about anything else. So made it easy for him. But I think it's just such a simple rye to drink.
Because I've had some ryes that are more difficult to drink. They have a little bit more sharpness, and this has got a really nice round that allows the rye experience to be pleasant versus so sharp. I really like it. And I was sort of like, what if it's got that sharp rye? All right, I just got to be cool about it, right? But it didn't. It had a nice rounded rye.
Yeah, once you get the liquid to the lips and you're like, ooh.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ryan says we should move into the your bourbon. Is it straight bourbon? Is that what I would say?
It is Vermont straight bourbon, yes, sir. 60% corn, 40% malted rye. Once again, everything is blended down with Vermont spring water, mountain water, and I step proof all my products. Sometimes.
What is step proof?
So step proof, what the reasoning on why you do it is you wouldn't want to take alcohol at a high proof or your barrel entry proof, and get it right down to bottle proof. Because when you do that, when you add water to alcohol, it heats up really quickly. So a lot of compounds and flavors will vanish.
Yep.
So you typically, what I do is do everything in 3. So if it's 99 gallons of water to blend down, I'll divide that by 3. So 33 gallons. I'll wait for a little bit, a few days, add another third of it, wait a few days, add another third of it. That way it doesn't get hot, doesn't react. And you just get it right to where you need to be.
All right. I hope you learned something, because I just did here. All right. So we're coming in at, I guess I can see the 90 so easily. 45. There's one over here that's going to require a little math in my brain. We're coming in at 45% ABV. Why did you pick 45 for the bourbon?
I feel that, anything lower than that, once again, when you add water to alcohol, it kind of opens up, kind of like absinthe with the luge.
Yep.
Right. So I think 90 is right at the perfect spot for me. Okay. Everything's different. Every spirit's different depending on how you distill it. There's a lot of factors. So I think 90 proof is an easy way to keep everything just sustainable as far as flavor goes and liquid.
I love it. Mal, if he was here, would say his Scotch whiskey sweet spot is about 46. So we're right there.
Yes.
So I have some knowledge about the Scotch whiskey world. I have less about the American bourbon world. To be a bourbon, are there age requirements? Are there ingredient requirements? Are there things like that for you to write the word, this is a straight bourbon on that label?
Well, speaking of that, yes. So bourbon is America's spirit. It can be made anywhere in America. There's only very minimal rules, which is your mash bill to create it is 51% corn.
51 or at least 51?
Minimal 51% corn, because that takes, the percentage of the mash bill, per se. So 51% corn, then it just has to touch a new white American oak, even if it's for a second. And I believe that's all the rules.
Right. So there's not a minimum aging?
Nope, no minimum aging, just needs to touch white oak, American white oak.
Okay.
And 51% corn. And that's really the federal
Okay.
law.
All right. Right. And so in Scotland, in addition to, it has to be a single malt, right? One distillery, but 3 years in a barrel.
Yes.
Yes. So and I know that there are.
Excuse me, but I believe it's bourbon barrels, right? Or am I wrong?
So it has to be an oak barrel.
Oak barrel. Okay.
Right. So we have virgin oak, right? They'll take Spanish oak with sherry, previous sherry, but the vast majority would be American bourbon barrels. The vast majority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's. Are we ready?
All right.
To
We're
try
poured
some?
in a Village bourbon, 45% ABV, straight. I wanted to say straight Kentucky bourbon because that's so traditional, but we got straight Vermont bourbon here. That's exciting.
Yes.
Right. We got to get those words falling out of people's mouths. Straight Vermont bourbon.
Another thing too that I was taught when nosing whiskey is you don't realize it, but you're so used to wearing your clothes and the laundry detergent that your nose is so adjusted to it. So when you go from one to another, that it's good to reset your senses by smelling your clothes to reset it. So
coffee's considered a great aroma reset.
Yes, that too. Correct.
Yep. Wow, a very smooth on the nose, not burn, just incredibly smooth with a light sweetness so far. All right, Village Garage, straight Vermont bourbon, 45% ABV.
Yeah, this product that we're sipping now, I believe, is around 7.5 years old.
Okay, that's neat. And will that be the end of the line for your aging, or do you imagine there's a place where you're releasing a 9-year-old bourbon? Or
we do. This is actually an older product. Okay. I was racing over here. Trying to beat the mudslides that you have coming in here, and I just quick grab bottles, and I noticed that the label said 3. I was like, no, I can't bring the best product, but if you like it, then we're good. So we do have bourbon now. It's about 9 years old, 9+. So we're proud of that.
All right. Let me ask you a question. Again, we did no prep for this, right? So again, I hope I don't step on any toes. I don't see 7-year-old bourbon. Will I see 9-year-old bourbon? Do you ever intend to do any age statements, or is that a conversation? Or
I think, that getting away from age statements, unless you are 10 years old or plus, then I think then that's when you really want to put an age statement on there. So for us, with production and moving, you never know. Something could be 5 years old and ready. Something could be 7 years old and ready.
Yes.
And so doing that hinders you with putting an age on the bottle unless you hand write it. Then that's a lot of extra work to do that. So let's just, for us, simplicity wise, that just don't put an age statement on there. Drink it, and if you like it, you like it, and that's the way it is. If you don't like it, tell me. That way I can fix it.
Well, what I like about what you just brought up is like you're acknowledging, right, the truth about aging spirits and the impact of the oak, of the of the spirit in the barrel, the impact on the whiskey. This barrel might have been ready at 5. This barrel might have taken till 7. And what's up with that?
Yeah, so obviously, that when you get a barrel, sometimes the staves are not as old. Like they may not be all from the same tree, the same lot.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'll get an imbalance of flavors on the barrels. Or you can always too get barrels custom made, like oak, sherry, oak, sherry, oak, sherry. So you can do something like that.
Alternating the staves.
Yes, you can totally do that.
Order that.
Yeah, you can have them handmade that way. There's so many factors with making a great whiskey. So we use American white oak, Char 3 from the Ozarks, because we feel that Ozarks has the best white oak.
You're not the only one who thinks that. As we know, Glenmorangie owns a forest in the Ozarks in Missouri for that specific reason, and they have a specific Missouri Ozark release that's like hard to get. I don't have one, but right, it seemingly is true. Like
Yes.
that wood has, and is it the tannins, the vanilla that's coming out of it? What's going on with it? Do you know?
I think the fact that Ozark wood is very hardy and very dense, that it makes it easier to not lose angel share as much. And then that wood is probably comprised of at least 130 different forms of sugar.
Yeah.
And so it just makes a great breathing, let the oxygen come in and hit the acids and kind of start working its chemical reactions and creating this beautiful bouquet of notes is also with the yeast involved too.
Yeah.
So
That is so interesting to me because I've always known about Glenmoe's forest and they're sourcing there. But that you're doing it too, right?
yes.
Yeah. That, in all honesty, and I've said this before on the show, so I can't retract the truth, right? I'm not a bourbon man, right? Because I've often found it too sugary sweet. What I like about this bourbon, and I really mean it, right, is it doesn't have some of that too sweet for me element, right? You've struck a balance here.
Yes, and that's what we went for was 60% corn and 40% malted rye.
Yeah.
That way you're a little bit lower instead of 70%, 20, and 10. We went with two different ingredients. The maltiness of the rye helps really balance that over corn sweetness and nose. So it's kind of an obscure bourbon mash bill.
Yeah.
But I think the balance is it's just right for us, at least.
No, and it's working for me. And again, I've said it so many times, and the guys all know it in the friend group and on the show, right, that I think bourbon is too sweet for me. And this is different. This has got bourbon, for sure. This is a bourbon whiskey. But it's more subtle. It's more rounded. It's balanced better for me. And seemingly it's matching what you were after.
Well, thank you. We're here. So let's balance it out with the bonfire.
All right. So we've got the Village Garage bonfire.
So let me ask you a question, right? You seem like a grown person that's been to a campfire before, right?
I have.
Right?
Yeah, we had one here last night, actually.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So bonfire, right, is you maybe put on some Bruce Springsteen, Glory Days, crack a bottle of the bonfire open. You pass that around. You're telling stories bigger than they ever were. It is a Vermont straight bourbon blended with a pinch and a kiss of love of Sugar Bob's Vermont smoked maple syrup. So a true Vermont product. So I know what you're thinking. It could be too sweet. There's maple syrup in there. No. I wanted to drink like a whiskey first and give you that feel of Vermont maple syrup second.
Well, okay. So a couple things. One, if it's got some of the bourbon, quality of your straight bourbon, we're in good shape. I have a sugar house. I don't know if you saw it when you pulled up in the driveway, but I make maple syrup.
I did not see that.
Yeah, is in the other direction of the main house. And I will confess, for the first time in 20 years, I did not tap trees this year. I'm super busy, but I do have a strategic reserve of maple syrup here, so I'm still in good shape. But I love maple syrup. It's actually the only sugar that I use. My wife puts it in her coffee, and because I don't like sweet very much. I'll do some chocolates with whiskey because it works so well. But if I would rather have more dinner than dessert.
See, I'm opposite. I want to have dessert first and then eat dinner, then more dessert.
Okay. But so I've not been turned off by bourbon or maple syrup because it's the sweet I like. So do you happen to know, and I think you've just opened a tasting room at Sugar Bob's place?
We did, which is actually not far from this place.
Right. Chester, Vermont.
Chester, Vermont, Sugar Bob's finest kind.
About 23 miles from this physical location. I just happen to know that. Right. Do you happen to know how Sugar Bob is smoking his maple syrup?
Well, normally I don't give secrets away, and this one I still will not give away. I know he would probably tell you.
Okay.
But without his permission, I don't think it's okay.
All right.
But he makes the best Vermont smoked maple syrup the land has ever seen.
Big words. And so far, everything has rung true from Ryan from Village Garage Distillery. All right, so we've got the bonfire. So we've got a smoky maple bourbon.
Correct. That is correct, yes. Because I like the scotches, the smoky scotches, Highlands one.
Yeah.
So it was a quick and easy way to do that, but to make it more approachable for the beginner bourbon drinkers, or the beginner drinkers.
Yeah.
Not something very super complex, but
right. And Ryan mentions Smoky Highlands, right? And as we know, right, a lot of the peat used for smoking whiskey comes from the Highlands, right? Even if it's an Isla release, but because it's just such a vast quantity of land, they've got quite a bit of peat. So we've got the Bonfire, Smoky Maple, 45% ABV.
That is correct, sir.
All right. Very subtle on the nose, the smoke. All right. Wow. The smoke for me is entirely on the exhale through my nose. The sweetness is in the back of the throat, but it's a subtle maple sweetness. It's not intense. It's not too much.
It's not. I think it's a good balance. We found the right percentage and the right balance to do it.
Wow. What would you we drink it straight, right? Is this something you would use in a cocktail or something?
You can make a cocktail with it. I think bonfire with your friends, having a good time, get off the motorcycle, crack a bottle, open that. You're telling stories bigger than they ever were.
Yep. No. All right. So I love that, and I couldn't even tell you the name of a cocktail, a motor car, a side bike, something like that. Right. Not a cocktail drinker. Right. But I love this idea of straight whiskey with friends around fires after an experience. Oh, did you see me? Oh, you didn't see that turn I made? I spun 4 times. I kicked dirt the whole way. Took down 2 saplings. Right. Right. And did it with one eye closed. Right? That's the story we're telling?
That's the story. Let's just not tell that to the law.
Listen, if nobody saw you do it.
No, out of sight, out of mind, my friend.
That's right. That's right. Prove it. All right. So we've got one more to do, which I think I'm going to have to look at the front. All right. So this is... All right. So I think we've got a French word.
It's a French word, yeah. L'esprit de Vermont, right?
L'esprit de Vermont.
Yeah, yes. I'm not French,
Yeah, I'm not French either. Yeah.
So what that is a blended whiskey.
Is this be the spirit of Vermont?
Correct, the spirit of Vermont. So
is this a limited release only because I see 443 out of 1,002?
That is correct. I think I drank the rest of them, so there's probably only 443 bottles left anyway. So it's a blend of 2 different cultures, right? So it's an Armagnac cask finished for 14 months.
That's why we've got French.
Exactly. That's why we have that homage to that. And then it's a blended whiskey of our products. Struggling to get it open.
Well, the seal didn't want to break, so it peeled.
Yeah, what's the gold foil that we use? So that's the high-end one. That is cask strength at 107 proof. Our address is 107 Depot Street, so we do everything with meaning. Without meaning in life, what do you have? You have nothing. So without nothing, we have 107 proof L'Esprit de Vermont.
All right, so aged in Armagnac casks?
Correct, for 1 year.
For 1 year.
Yes.
Right. So clean spirit direct into those casks or bourbon then put into those casks?
It was 90% of our bourbon from a mash bill. Then it was 5% of our 100% our rye whiskey, and then 5% of a source 14-year-old whiskey, bourbon that we had sourced. So very light, easy, drinkable, approachable blend. 107 proof cask strength.
So I gotta figure this out. So 100 is 50. 7 is 3.5. So we got 53.5% ABV.
And we didn't even need the calculator for that.
Yeah.
Well, you're smart.
Can we go with lucky? All right. And I heard you say cask strength.
Yes, correct.
That's phenomenal. Was there a conversation at all about this particular release from a business perspective? If we cut it down, we can create more, or was this from day one, this is going to be a cask strength experience?
I always said traditional bourbon, traditional whiskeys aged in America was always at 107 proof. That's just traditional. And that's great. Our address is 107 Depot Street. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Let's just do that.
All right, so we're about to do it. The 107 tradition is like meaning that like whiskeys anywhere produced in America, bourbons produced in America were traditionally released at 53.5?
That is an answer I do not have for you, but that's just the way that I was taught and the knowledge that I was given.
That's the folklore.
Yeah, the folklore. So 107 proof is kind of the old school average, and that's what we went with.
I feel like there's a bourbon out there that's got a 107 connected. I'll see what I can find out because I think it lines up with what Ryan's telling us from Village Garage Distillery in Bennington, Vermont. L'Esprit de Vermont.
Yes.
The Spirit of Vermont, Slanja, aged 1 year in Armagnac casks from France. We heard Ryan talk about the blend of spirits that went into it. I heard rye, I heard bourbon, and I heard a 14-year bourbon went into this as well.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Right. I was listening.
Man, you finally.
Wow.
You know? Wow.
Two things. One, I know we're running long today, everybody, but we're having a number of experiences, and we hope you're hanging in there with us. This is fantastic.
Yes. Thank you very much. And
wow.
the problem is it's so easy to drink at 107 proof. The first time I made it, I was like Thanksgiving Day. I think I drank half the bottle, and I didn't do the mashed potatoes. The stuffing was, all right. So there's something gingery spicy in here. And I don't know if you have thoughts on that, but what I love about cask strength whiskeys is there's been no dulling of the natural flavors. It is what it is. And I love that you've put some of your product into another product's barrel because now we've layered the experience, right? Yeah, well, that's the base point behind a finishing cask. You know? Like you have a great product, let's make it better. It's all about how can you make things better in life.
Nobody's doing this here in America.
Well,
I mean, folks are doing it, right? Right. It's taken off, but traditionally, it's not been the game plan.
No, and I think while broadening your horizons and your mindset and your ideas and crafting new stuff, maybe using Hungarian oak or stuff like that you can really make a very well-rounded whiskey and give somebody an experience that they're not going to forget.
This is just a fantastic whiskey. What made you go for Armagnac? Did you have a connection? Did somebody say, hey, I got a line on? You're like, oh, I love this spirit, I love Armagnac, so I'd like to do this. Like, what brought you there versus like going those traditional Scotch whiskeys, right? That wine cask, that sherry cask, right? What brought you to Armagnac?
It was a random email. And realistically, it was, half off. I said, yes, 27-year-old Armagnac cask, freshly dumped. Get it to me right now. I have an idea.
This is fantastic. This is a wonderful lineup you have. I hope I didn't just put you in a funny spot. If somebody said, Colin, it's a cool April evening. It's rainy, it's wet. We're going to sit outside and get damp, but not pour it on. Grab one of these bottles. I'd be thankful that I have 2 hands and 10 fingers because I'd take them all with me. I have an affection for L'Esprit de Vermont because I love the layers. I love whiskey that develops complexity. I was incredibly impressed with this rye and the well-rounded experience versus the sharp, and the fact that you agree that I should have just walked into a bakery, and that's because that's really what I experienced. This bourbon not being too sweet for me is a wonderful experience because I think too many bourbons are too sweet in this bonfire because it's the maple sugar. And even though you won't tell me how it got smoked, I do know how things are smoked, but it's subtle. This is a lovely range of whiskey you've produced, my friend.
Thank you. And all I care about is making people happy.
Yeah. All right. Well, Ryan, if you'll take your lid off, we'll do a toast. And around here, the crew gives us the toast. So they only know to keep it appropriate-ish. So we'll see what they have in store for us today.
Is that my turn?
Would you like to read it?
I would rather be here with the people in this room than with the finest people I know. Drive fast, take chances, my friend.
Thanks to Ryan from Village Garage Distillery in Bennington, Vermont, bringing an entire range of their selection to try, including their gin and vodka. But L'Esprit de Vermont, the Village Rye, the Village Bourbon, and the Village Bonfire. This is really impressive. What would you like to leave us with today?
I would like to lead us with today that we are very proud of Bennington. We are very proud of what we've done. I think drink responsibly as always. And, keep the rubber side down, Hoss, as they say. And cherish Vermont whenever you visit it. And make sure you're just a good person and be happy and spread love and drink up. Right?
Right.
That's what it is.
Cheers.
Cheers, my friend. Stay gold.
And a British guy.